Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and set up the control rig, joint rig, joints and stuff for the helmet. Really, there's only gonna be probably two joints, and it's gonna drive the one rotation joint's gonna drive all of this stuff, which and the glass that's here, and then the other joint is gonna control, which will be the main joint will control the helmet, right? So I'm gonna bind the um, the main joint to the helmet. So I'll probably have one at the base, maybe three. One at the base, one a little higher, and then one at that pivot, so that I can control the rotation. So yeah, I'll have a master that controls both, and then one that controls just the helmet, and one that just controls the the glass and all that stuff. So let's set that up. All right. I don't need any of this stuff, but I will use his. Where are you at, buddy? There you go. Okay. All right. So I actually want a joint for a fact right there, because I know that's going to be the center of it. So I'm going to snap it with V, all right? But I need this to be at 0. So when I come out of this and you look over in the front window, you can see it's way over here, right? So I should just then be able to take the joint, hold X down, and it'll zero out on the X, but it should still be right where it needs to be. All right. So this one's going to be the helmet joint, or the visor joint. We'll call it the visor joint. And then I'm literally going to duplicate this one and move it back in space. And this is going to be the helmet joint. Or, no, I don't want to call it the helmet joint. I'm going to call it the shell joint. And then I'm going to dupe the visor again, and I'm going to move it down to sort of the center. And I kind of want this joint to snap to kind of the center of where this is going to be down, down here, on that pivot, right? So I want something that's going to kind of go to the center of that cog there. Well, it's a good thing because the cog, I grab that and I grab that and I isolate select. I should be able to kind of snap him over and then slide it. See that little line right there? So now it virtually snaps right, V-snapped right where it needed to be. Now it's right on the pivot of the cog, which is the collar. That's the collar control, so I want it there. And this one we're going to call main joint, or helmet, actually. All right. So I'm going to parent shell to helmet and visor to helmet. All right, so now I've got my 3 joints. This is my deformation rig for my helmet, essentially. I'm going to bind all of the visor stuff to the visor joint, and I'm going to bind all the shell stuff to the shell joint. And then I'm going to create controls using the control dock. Now, this is a completely separate rig from the advanced skeleton system. So it doesn't need to rest under, and I can delete these because this is from the curve thing. It doesn't need to rest under the group because this is literally going to be its own, even, say you get, even though the geo is in here. So I could add another group underneath group here, and just call it helmet. So I'm going to group this, and I'm going to call it helmet group. And I'm going to put it just under the main group here. Now I can build as he has here, he's got a deformation system, see it, and he's got a motion system, which is that, and he's got his geo, right? Well, I'm not going to remove my geo from the geometry because I don't want to mess anything up. So I'm just going to let that stay in there. But I might add underneath my helmet group another motion system. So I might take this and I might group it and just call it helm deform. All right. And then underneath this is where I'm going to put my control curves. So here we go. My main, I'm going to use not a cog because I got a cog for the collar, so I want something slightly different this time. Let's use, oh, you know what I forgot to do? Check it out. This is what I forgot to do. I actually forgot to adjust my local rotation axes and make sure that they're all kosher. And it's going to really make that much of a difference in this particular case, because I'm going to probably want to manually adjust them anyhow, or at least this one, and maybe that one. So you know what, I'm going to leave them as they are and we'll go from there. So I'm going to use the I'm going to just use the circle sprog for the helmet one. And you're like, oh, I can't see it. There it is. In terms of my helmet control. Now, what's nice about it is I could leave that there if I wanted, but I've got all these controls down here, so I'm actually going to move it. I'm going to give him a halo so that I know that that's the helmet control up top. And then for the visor, I'm going to use a half sphere. Rotate it. Come on. And I'm going to put it down here. All right. So those are the only two controls. I'm not actually going to make a control for the shell because I don't anticipate moving that piece separately. So now I just need to set up, my pair constraints or my curve colors. In this case, I think I'm going to make that one yellow, and I'll make this one green. All right. And I'm going to put the visor control under the helmet control. And I'm going to take this, and I'm going to group it. Now, these are my zero placements, so what we don't want to forget is freezing the transforms. And then I'm going to move this underneath helmet group. And this is going to be called control group. Or just controls. All right. So we're going to parent constrain the helmet to the helmet. And I'm going to parent the visor to the visor. So if I grab the visor control and I rotate it, that's where it's going to rotate from. Okay? All right. So now we're going to bind everything. Now comes the fun part. Yeah. So I'm going to do the shell first because that's pretty easy. click grab. Skin, bind skin, and all of these are going to be closest distance, classic linear, because they're not going to deform, they're just moving. So apply. And then for the visor, this one, the geo on this one is definitely a little difficult to grab because there's a lot of moving parts. And this piece, I always forget. I think that's it. Okay. And we have the visor joint selected. No, we don't. There we go. Apply. So now, if I rotate that, it opens, it closes. It opens, it closes. If I move this, the helmet comes off. But notice, if I wanted to unscrew it from this, my issue is the local rotation axis isn't lined up correctly. Okay, so I need to change the local rotation axis on that in order for it to line up with the collar so that when it rotates naturally. All right, so that means I basically have to redo everything I just did. So I've got to unskin all this stuff. And let me grab all of these. Actually, I may not have to yeah, I'm going to have to. Well, no, I may not have to. And I'm going to delete the parent constraint on the helmet joint. And I should be able to, let's find out here, if it'll let me do this. I want that and that. Those are the two things that I need. All right, and I should be able to come into component mode, select this little guy, and then grab that. There we go, and rotate it. And I just want it to sort of follow that line right there. All right. Okay. Now, that should not have screwed anything up, but we'll find out. And now all I should have to do, I should just be able to rotate this still. Yep. Is rebind that, and reparent constraint that to that. So now, same problem. Okay, that's because this curve I actually put on here before, because the pivot was set, right? So I'm going to go back and I'm going to do circle cross. No, it was circle sprog, orphan. And wait, did I lose the... Oh, heck, I deleted all the curves. Okay. So I got to unparent that, and I got to delete that, so I don't lose this one. And let's see if that messed up my curves. Nope. Okay. So we're going to grab the helmet now that the rotation axis has been altered, right? And orphan, and then scale it up. There we go. And then move it up. Down a little bit. All right. Now it's lined up at that angle. Make it green. And I should be able to parent the visor. Wait a minute. Got to freeze the transforms, guys. Now, what's going to happen when I freeze transforms on this? See that? So you remember this trick? The trick that you have to do with this is to get that rotate offset, all right? Is to parent this joint or this curve under this joint. All right, so we got to grab the helmet first, grab there, and I'm going to parent it. Then I'm going to group this. All right, so see how that's parented? And I should be able to freeze the transforms. All right, let's try this one more time. Oh, because I've already rotated it, I should make it 0. There we go. Make it 0, it was 23. Group it. This is the rotate offset. And I'm going to rotate it 23 degrees. That's what it was sitting at, I think, before. All right. And now it's 0 position. Okay. Yay. So this then I unparent. And it should inherit all of that information. And then this is never going to get touched, so I can essentially lock it. And we're good. Now where this becomes problematic is I can't parent this underneath this. Okay, because if I do, watch what happens. See how the visor's, now its 0 is all messed up. Okay, so what I have to do to make this work is both of these need to go under controls here. Oops. Okay. I need to parent constrain this to this. So this is the parent, that's the child, control, parent constrain. So that when this moves, the visor moves, see it? And if I just want to rotate the visor, and I grab the visor, it moves by itself. And rotate the helmet. Right. Now, notice that I don't have the helmet control parent constrained to that, which is why nothing else is moving, right? So now, grab this and rotate. The whole thing should rotate, and I should be able to twist it on and off. Right? So I can do a twist pop. Twist. And I can raise the visor. Not a problem. And I can move it off. And I got something to parent constrain to, and it's right at its base. So he can hold that in his hand now, and that's where the pivot for the helmet is going to be, unless I want to build a dynamic pivot. All right, so now that's the helmet sorry for the kind of little back and forth there, but that's generally the helmet's, the rig setup. It's ready to go. Next up is the belt. Dun, dun, dun.